Hey everyone, Rego Reviews here. It's Wednesday, which means time for my Once Upon a Time recap. So this episode was probably my favorite the whole season. It definitely had all the feels. So it started off with the Enchanted Forest. Alice is still locked in the tower, and it's her birthday, and she's basically celebrating it alone with her toys until she makes a wish on a cupcake, which reminded me a lot of when Emma made a wish back in the pilot episode. She made a wish, I would assume, to be free from the tower, and this giant helps her escape the tower. And I would assume a few years pass and she's um, spying on Hook with this telescope because, if they're poison hearts, they can't be near each other. So she's spying on them when Robin comes out of nowhere and is about ready to attack because she thinks that Alice is a spy. But she um, explains that she's Hook's daughter, and they understand. And then Alice actually falls in one of Robin's traps, and we find out that Robin's trying to trap the giant that freed Alice. So Alice is trying to tell Robin, this giant's friendly. Like, this is the person who helped me escape from my tower. And she doesn't necessarily listen to her at first. She, let me look at my notes here. Actually, she leaves Alice behind, and Robin goes to this bar, and I'm wondering if it's the bar that the original Robin Hood was at, where Regina was gonna meet him. We find out that the giant's actually been not really terrorizing the whole town, but flattening the town. So there's like this big group that wants to go after the giant, and Robin wants to too. She wants to be able to uphold her father's honor and legacy, but they won't let her because they think she's a girl. And Alice is trying to convince the townsfolk that he's a really gentle giant, but they end up locking the both of them up. And they both, while they're locked up, they both share a little bit about their fathers. And it was especially touching because we never really got to see Robin talk about her dad, and you could definitely tell that they're both their father's daughters because Alice had the telescope Captain Hook had, and Robin Hood is gifted in the bow and arrow like her father was, and she says that she wants to uphold her father's legacy and be like Robin Hood was, basically make him proud, implying. And she's actually able to free herself, but she actually leaves Alice behind. I was like, what? Why the hell would you leave behind? I mean, they looked like they were having a moment and having chemistry there, so I could understand why um, she would leave her behind. And what I also thought was freaking hysterical is how she says that she hot-wired Emma's car and she drove around in the Beetle around Storybrooke for a long time until, well, not a long time, about 8 minutes, until the sheriff caught her. So she's definitely wicked. She's also her mother's daughter as well. And Robin's able to escape, but she leaves Alice behind, like I said. So Robin ends up proving to the crowd, like, basically they let her have one shot to try to get this giant, and Alice tackles her and stops her, and she convinces her that that to let the giant go. Well, basically the giant, just went and ran away at that point. So, they go back to the tower, and Alice is feeling conflicted because that's where she was born and raised, but this was also like her prison for all these years, and she's been so alone. But Robin makes a point saying that she's not alone. She's free now. She freed herself. She saved herself. And Alice gets to see the giant again, and he turns into stone. And they actually have a cute moment where they celebrate Alice's birthday and they make a wish. And I'm wondering exactly what Alice's wish is. Maybe it'd be a chance to find new love, because I gotta say, Robin and Alice have amazing chemistry. I definitely ship Wonder Bow. Um, in Hyperion Heights, Rogers is trying to prove Tilly's innocence in the murders, and it's complicated because she doesn't exactly remember where she was, but Rogers wants to protect Tilly, so and for her protection, he hides her out in Henry's apartment, and they go basically looking for a scavenger hunt to try to retrace Tilly's steps. And while they're gone, Tilly actually pulls out of Henry's bookshelf the story of Robin Hood. I'm wondering if that's the exact book that Regina gave her father. But Tilly is able to retrace some of her steps, but none of the townspeople seem to remember her, so she feels invisible, and she's basically like invisible to the whole town, and that's really sad. Like, I really feel for her. I definitely know what it's like to feel invisible, and she ends up finding her backpack where she was, so they go back to Henry's apartment, and they find barrettes from the murder victims, and she swears she didn't do anything, but Rogers has no choice but to take her in. But they actually are able to prove her innocence because of the giant that she once knew is in Hyperion Heights, but it's a statue, and there's a camera inside the eye. So it was able to show that Tilly had an alibi for when the murders happened. So she's able to um, she's able to go and be free again. And she actually meets Robin, who in Hyperion Heights, her curse name is Margot. And she definitely looks studious. She's been backpacking a lot. And she doesn't find Tilly weird. It seems like she finds her very fascinating. And they seem to be really friendly and hit it off. And Tilly asks her, "What are you reading?" And Margot says, "Oh, it's Alice in Wonderland. It's my favorite story." So I find it amazing that Tilly was reading the story of Robin Hood, and Margot was reading the story of Alice in Wonderland. It just shows how much of a connection they have. And Margot goes back to the bar and finds her mom, and they reunite. And Zelena then knows what it's like to lie to their kid about who they are. Another big part of the episode was Regina and Lucy were starting their Operation Hyacinth. They had a bit of a disagreement on whether to use walkie-talkies or texting. Regina wanted to use walkie-talkies, but Lucy suggested to use old-fashioned texting, and Regina calls her smarty pants. It's very cute. She wants her to figure out what Sam D is up to. I think we're all trying to figure out what Sam D is up to. So Regina goes to Sam D's apartment to go on a date with him in an attempt to distract him so Lucy could gather intel. And what she finds is that there's a death card on these cards on the table. So I'm wondering what exactly that means. And Kelly, or Zelena, is surprised to see Sam D and Regina together, and she finds out that Cecilia is awake. So she's rightfully so concerned about her sister and her well-being, and especially her grandkitty, because now she's in a snake pit in the apartment, and Regina's trying to warn Lucy, like, to get out of there, but she's not getting the messages. So she hides until, actually, Sam D came in while Lucy was in the apartment, but she was able to hide and escape. But Sam D ended up bringing Lucy's hat back to the bar, so he knows that she was in the apartment. And he informs Regina that he's after Rumple's dagger, so I'm wondering what his intentions are. Like, if he wants to become the new Dark One or what, because would Rumple give his dagger up willy-nilly? Because he wants to get rid of the dagger. He wants to reunite with Belle, but I don't think he'd just give it up to Cecilia. But Regina points out that she saw the death card, but then Cecilia turns it around and says that, he basically shows, like, who Regina was in the past, who she is now, and who she could become, and it was a love card, like there could be love in her future. So Regina admitted to Zelena that she has feelings for Dr. Facilier, but I don't think her and Dr. Facilier are endgame. I definitely think that there's more to Dr. Facilier than what we're seeing. I definitely think it's like the how Hades was to Zelena, how he wasn't really in love with her, he was just trying to use her. And with all the casts that we've heard this week, the cast announcements that who's coming back for the series finale, we saw that Sean Maguire, who played Robin Hood's coming back, so I'm hoping that means Outlaw Queen is endgame. And also, a small part in this episode, Henry was talking to Ivy, and Ivy is starting to have a lot of regrets. And Henry informs her, that nothing is more sincere than just saying, I'm sorry. And she says, I'm sorry to Henry, but he doesn't know what she's sorry for, and doesn't know that she's the one that poisoned his heart, and he doesn't even know his heart's poisoned yet. So she goes to find Anastasia and try to apologize to her first. And it shows the previews for next week that Regina's trying to stop Ivy from making this curse, that it's not worth it. And it looks like Ivy is trying to find Anastasia, but Anastasia looks like she doesn't not want anything of it. Like, her powers are like going out of control. So yeah, this was definitely my favorite episode this season. Terrific episode. And Rose Reynolds and Tiara, definitely, they are amazing. Their talent is awesome. I love their ship. They have amazing chemistry together. So I'm hoping the writers continue to have them together throughout the series. So I hope you guys enjoyed Once Upon a Time tonight. If you guys want to check out Once Upon a Time, it is on Fridays, 8 p.m. on ABC. Until next time, stay regal.